Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Ankerstar Wealth Morning Update. We've got three topics for you today. First of all, we're going to talk about the conference that I'm at, why I'm at it, what I'm learning about, and how it affects you and your money, which is what you care about. And then I'm going to hand it over to Mike. He's going to talk about a commodity out there, not necessarily a commodity, but he's going to talk about cocoa beans. But in the commodity space, sometimes you see wild price fluctuation. He found one in the cocoa bean space, which he's going to, of course, tie that to some stocks that are involved in there. Think maybe Hershey, Nestle, names that you've heard of. And then what you've all been waiting for is the day 2 debrief of the Ankerstar Wealth Stock Madness, and to see which teams moves on, who are the Cinderellas, who are the upsets, and we'll continue towards our grand prize of winning the trophy for our competition. But before we begin, this is a financial education presentation. You have to do your own due diligence for acting upon anything you hear in this presentation. More disclaimer information is available at ankerstarwealth.com. Let's talk about where I am and what I am doing. So you see on the screen here, this is called Future Proof. They started this a couple years ago. And when you think investing conferences, think of, a bunch of folks in professional, suits and things like that, sitting in a conference room in a hotel getting death by PowerPoint. Well, the industry has realized that by doing that for decades, that you are not really enticing a lot of folks into the industry, meaning younger folks. Like, people weren't going to school majoring in finance and business to go into go into the career field of investing. So even now, the average age of the advisor is 56. So you're looking at two people that are still younger than the average age on this screen. Isn't that crazy? So Josh Brown largely led this with a crew of other professionals, and so we need to redesign what we're doing to appeal to the younger crowd out there and entice folks into this industry, because it's so important that people get this right, and there's advisors available to help everybody. So I came up with this future-proof concept. You can see off to the right, there's the festival, and it's on Huntington Beach in California. I went last year. You wear shorts and sandals every day and a polo, and they had food trucks and everything was outside, and they still had the stages. There was still all the information and all the live screenings, but they also had, things that I don't necessarily think of. Well, I do now. Okay, I have 2 daughters, but Instagram, little areas that are already like pre-mocked up, where you just show up and take a picture and you post real quick, and it's got all the hashtags for you. The important stuff to our youth. Right. So they're really coming up with a new way of doing it. And again, Mike will be there this year. I hope to have the whole team actually out at Future Proof at the festival and coming up in September. But on the left, this is the first year they've had the Future Proof retreat, which is here in Colorado Springs. It's where I'm sitting right now. I fly out here in a couple hours, and it's a little different focus. Instead of 4,000 people, it's 500 people or so, largely C-suites. Execs. You do have to apply and get approved to go. I was denied the first time I applied. Kind of went back to the well and said, no, this is where I need to be. But I will say, having been here, that I'm on the, I can see why. Yeah, there's a lot of heavy hitters here, right? Industry veterans that have been in it 30 years instead of just 10. A lot of folks that are pretty high up on the food chain, and amazing information. I was able to eat dinner with the CIO of Bitwise. So if you happen to follow, I try not to talk about crypto too much, but if you happen to follow the BITB story, that's the ticker symbol of the Bitcoin ETF that we hold at Ankerstar Wealth. I went to 2 dinners while I was here. The first one was with Grayscale, who runs the GBTC, which is the Bitcoin trust that transitioned to an ETF that still charges 1.5% fee, and Bitwise charges 0.2%, so 7.5x difference. And I did, we're used standard thing, you mill about for half an hour or so, and I sat pretty close to the front of the table and was talking to him, and I said, what's the latest on the 1.5% fee thing? And he said, yeah, that is something we're taking a look at, which I thought was funny, because if you saw like Margin Call, the movie, there are times to have an all-call 3 a.m. board meeting to make decisions. And January 11th was one for Grayscale that evidently they didn't have that meeting. And now here we are 2+ months later, and they are looking into it. So I would say they're moving kind of at the speed of government on these things, where conversely, why you're not in the Grayscale version at 1.5%, but you're in the Bitwise version at 0.2% is not just because it's cheaper, but it's because this company Bitwise, they're aggressive, right? They came into this thing, they looked at all the different options that they had. They're a crypto company from the beginning, and they looked at all the options they had for pricing and said, we want to give our the consumer the best pricing ever, right? So down at 0.2%, you're really not going to get things cheaper than that. And with that, they bring all their expertise they've had in the crypto space, as well as the Coinbase relationship, which is where things are stored. So last, to kind of wrap it up. So yes, I learned a lot about the Fed cuts and the potential for recession and how the markets are going to affect, the elections are going to affect the markets and all that stuff. And we have communications out about that. But I will say, for those that are in BITB who are starting to learn more about crypto, the one question I had is, where is this Bitcoin? Like, who has it and where is it? And is it in hot or cold storage? Is it tied to the internet or not? And I can assure you 100% that they answered the question. They have their own wallets at Coinbase that are tied to Bitwise accounts, which our account numbers now match to each of those wallets, is actually where it's being held. And it's in cold storage the whole time. So it never really hits the internet. They collect the money that comes in from the inflows into the ETF, and then they buy the Bitcoin at the end of the day, almost at the end of the day, and it transfers without going onto the internet. So for a level of safety, that's a lot of crypto geekery right there. But from a level of safety, it's at the highest level of safety. So that I can assure you. That was the one question I made sure that I had to ask while I was out here, is to find out exactly how the Bitcoin is being transferred. Okay, enough about that. But it was a great opportunity. I hope to get to make the call to come out here next year as well. So great relationships being built. Okay, over to Mike let's hear about what's going on in the cocoa space.
Yeah. And it sounds, Steve, as you went from Grayscale to Bitwise, they probably had you take a suitcase of cold storage from all the outflows from Grayscale and move it over. So, save them some time. But and I was also thinking, as you were talking, that we're actually below the median age, and you were talking about the different social media. Is there an Ankerstar Wealth TikTok video coming soon? I don't know. I don't know. Are we that young?
Not TikTok. Can't quite do it. It's going to get banned anyway. We'll see. I don't know. I don't think it won't get banned. But
we'll put that in cold storage then. The
right,
TikTok.
Yes.
Okay. Well, since we were talking about Krispy Kreme donuts yesterday, I couldn't help but notice this morning. Cocoa prices nearly double in 3 months. And, if you are a chocolate lover, like a lot of the cocoa comes from Africa. In fact, it says the Ivory Coast accounts for 45% of the global cocoa supply, and Nigeria, Ghana, all affected by droughts and harvests and things like that, causing these cocoa beans to go up. And I'm going to show you a chart. And no, this is not the Bitcoin chart. This is the cocoa bean chart. If you had owned a ton of cocoa beans, you could have doubled your money, more than doubled your money since January. But I don't know who's hauling around a ton, but it's up to $9,900 for a ton.
Wow.
When I looked at this, I thought, oh my gosh, I was like, chocolate makers must be hurting. So I said, let me pull up the stocks. So I went ahead and pulled up Hershey. And this is a Hershey 3-month supply. 3-month graph. So you can see in 3 months, pretty much flat. It's been a little up, a little bit down, but pretty much, flat compared to the cost of cocoa beans. And what that leads you to believe is Hershey, as a producer, has to buy these cocoa beans, but they would hedge on the price. So basically they lock in their price months and maybe even years in advance. And that actually, gives them an advantage that they know what their cost is and that they can appropriately price their product. But that also gives the farmers, or whatever you're buying, the producers of the beans, it gives them a price that they know they're locked in at. So far, you can see no change in Hershey, although I have to believe that if cocoa beans stay that high for a long time, eventually the products would go up and you probably see the stock take a dip. Another one, let's take a look at Nestle. Here's another one. This one's actually dropped a little bit, but certainly not, a major drop, maybe about 7 or 8% since January. So, two major companies. Chocolate's not their only business, but it's a big part of it. So you can just see. Now, another thing that I know that actually when I did a case study for my MBA, we did it on Southwest Airlines, and we talked about airline stocks a while back, but airlines hedge on fuel costs. So when gas prices go up, cost of oil goes up, things like that, you think, oh boy, airlines, they're going to get hit hard, but they do the exact same thing on fuel. And in our business case, one of the things we learned is that Southwest hedged very far ahead of other airlines. And when prices, they made the right choice, at least that time. So that's just an example of products, commodities, and people do trade on commodities. But then you see all the companies that buy those commodities. So just interesting to see. So cocoa beans, check out your price of chocolate, go buy your Mother's Day gifts, or maybe you get your Valentine's Day's gifts, 10 months in advance or something. But
Easter coming up.
Oh yeah, Easter. Yeah, go buy your Easter chocolates. That's this week. I think you're probably already price locked in on those. So anyways, so let's get to the exciting update of the NCAA tournament. So let me see here. Let me open this up. So here we go. Yesterday's market was down. The Dow was down 0.08%, S&P down 0.28, and NASDAQ down 0.42. So all down just a little bit. We saw Apple eke out the closest game. They're the number one seed. Who, Steve, I'm looking at who picked them. Steve had them. Kelly had them. My son Spencer had them. Irene had Apple. There's at least 4 people with Apple. They barely won. They were down 0.67. A win's a win. In fact, when I first glanced at 4 o'clock, I thought we had a tie. And then I hit refresh on American Express and it went down 0.69. And I was like, uh-oh, what are we doing? A case of a tie. But we'll figure that out if it happens. So Apple, number 1 seed, advances. Number 9 seed, Accenture advances. Nobody took them. Number 12, Novartis knocked off Exxon Mobil, and that knocked out, let's see, somebody had Exxon. Jim, you had Exxon. Number 4, Walmart, and Kelly had Walmart, and my wife Trisha had Walmart. So we see Walmart advance. Number 11, Disney, and then, hey, number 14, Intuit, picked by yours truly. Took the low seed there, the number 14 seed. Nice. They advance. Number 7, AbbVie, and number 2, Berkshire Hathaway. Pat has Berkshire. So at this point in the standings, we have Steve, Trisha, Russ, and Pat are all 2-0. They've had all their seeds advanced. So, and I will not. The people that are 0 for 2 will go nameless. But some of them work for our company, and they'll hear about it.
And probably name Mike.
No, I am 1 for 2. I had Intuit. Yeah, I had Intuit. So here we go. On to the Elon Musk division that is happening right now. We have number 1, NVIDIA, going against Total Energies. Chevron versus PepsiCo, P&G, and then, of course, number 4, Tesla, who I know multiple people have already. And actually, look, their stock's doing pretty good today. They're in this division. Home Depot versus, I have Wells Fargo. I haven't looked to see how they're doing. Novo versus Intel. I believe, Steve, you have Intel, yes. Advanced Micros Devices, and then Meta, formerly Facebook, out there is the 2 seed. So we will wrap up this first round at the end of tomorrow, and then Friday is not a trading day, and then on Monday we'll be down to our final 32. So with that, turn it back over to Steve.
All right, fun stuff. Hope you guys are enjoying following along. That's all I've got for you today, and we will see you back tomorrow from the home office. We'll talk to you later. Bye.